it's basically a lot about parasite control in terms of parasitology, it's about parasite control and best measures and best practices in parasite control. And one of the things we've been looking at is anthelminthic resistance, which actually, has become an issue on farms. And one survey we did, we found resistance to benzimidazole, which is the white drenches, in 95% of the flocks we tested, and to levamisole in 48%. So there is an issue out there on farms, and ultimately what we'd encourage farmers to do is actually test on farm for resistance to products and actually know whether they can treat with these products in the future. Another part of our programme is looking at other ways of sustainable control, and a long-term part of the programme is looking at breeds, and we're looking at two breeds, Suffolks and Teagascs, and we found that there's a difference between Suffolks and Teagascs in terms of the resistance to parasites. Suffolks are more susceptible to parasites than the Teagascs, for instance, and we're now at a level where we're looking at genes and looking at the immune response and looking at genes that are actually controlling that immune response and the difference between the breeds. But the ultimate long-term goal, if you can find the genes or genes involved in controlling resistance, you can ultimately breed this down into the flocks down the line. Of course, taking into account that you're not affecting production or maybe making them more susceptible to other diseases. So this is work that's going on with Teagasc in conjunction with UCD. Basically, well, I talk to the vet or his advisor would be the first port of call, and actually if he thinks maybe his products aren't working as well, certainly do a drench test or a fecal egg count reduction test. That's simple. You take 10 or 12 animals, individual fecal samples, send them off to the lab pre-dosing. Then, depending on the drug group you're using, you go in at some interval post-dosing and you take a sample again of the same flock or same group. If you have a 95% reduction in fecal egg count, you can be relatively confident, if you've actually done all the procedures correctly, that there is an efficacy issue with the drug in question. And therefore, if that's the case, then you really should probably stop using that drug and look to alternative classes, of which we have 5 on the market at the moment for sheep, 2 of which are prescription-only medicines, which have only come about in the last couple of years after a 25-year gap, which is a long time to wait for a new product to come on the market. So that's why we have to readjust our thinking in how we use anthelminthics, and so that we actually delay resistance developing on farms and actually reduce our dependence, so we actually have them for a longer period of time. No doubt about it, when a drug product works, it works very well, and if an animal doesn't have parasites, you will see a performance benefit, providing all the nutrition and everything else is okay, and works very well. But you can go along, and we've been, I suppose, quite safe in the knowledge that that does work. But blindly going on and dosing, you may be dosing and you don't have to dose, and that's why we'd encourage people to do fecal egg counts to actually see whether they need to dose or not, and monitor them. And there's cases where they don't need to dose, and the more you dose, the more you select for resistance ultimately, and that's kind of what we're trying to get away from. Go and test to see their products on their farm. Are they working? Where do they actually fit in terms of the resistance issue? Don't automatically go for the gun. Have a little think about, do I really need to dose? That would be my message to them.